We're back with a prime selection of weird, empty, and forgotten games, including the final moments of one which was recently shut down forever. Let's get started. We're back. I was on DELTAWORLDS, receiving a guided tour of Venice from a wise sage, and he supplied me with some forbidden knowledge. Apparently a lot of the old guard of DELTAWORLDS have moved on to two different games. Virtual Paradise, which I've previously looked at, as well as a game called DELTAWORLDS. I told the wise man I'd be sure to check it out at some point in the future, and we parted ways after a lengthy conversation. DELTAWORLDS' website made me very excited to get into this one. According to them, this game offers visually compelling 3D content. I signed up for this one as Big Cool Tony, 1991, of course, and was given citizen number 309. If I'm not mistaken, that means I am the 309th person to ever sign up for this game. This one is real underground. Of course though, now that I was in, I had to get myself an avatar. There was no Tony preset this time. If I wanted one that looked like it was made after 1997, I was gonna have to make it myself. I spent a good 20 minutes remaking Tony from scratch, but with a modern twist. This is a new Tony. He's ditched the trench coat, got a bit more yoked, and went for a fashionable and cool turtleneck tank top and gold chain combo. Also a brand new mustache. In typical DELTAWORLDS fashion, the game immediately broke after this, and I could no longer move. So I had to reboot. Classic. This one was like a fever dream. It's very hard to properly describe. And that's saying something, considering the game we're playing. The whole time I was on this one, there was a real crunchy MIDI of the Mario airship theme playing. It's fine for the first minute or two, but when you've been hearing it for 20 minutes straight, you start to go a little kooky. I spawned into this one next to a fella named Star, which I thought was a real person, but was actually just an NPC. Also on the ship was a bunch of greasy, ponytailed bikers, as well as Captain Claus. Santa! He's real! For the next while, I was just kind of aimlessly wandering, clicking on things that sent me halfway across the map. I had no idea what I was actually doing. I might have been warping back and forth between the same areas, for all I knew. Everything looked exactly the same. In one region, the fleet was coming. Be sure to watch out for them. They are extremely dangerous. Eventually, I made it to a city-type area, which finally changed the music from the Mario airship theme to another version of the Mario airship theme. This one was kind of a jock jam. They had a spaceship sitting around, so I went to take it for a little joyride, and it sent me to a futuristic area full of creeps, beeps, and bloops. I'm pretty sure it was a big Star Trek building with a little bit of Stargate mixed in there as well. There were a bunch of different rooms and paths to go down, all labeled with things like Corporal Dimwit's quarters, messy mess hall, and other stuff like that. I wanted to take a minute to have a rest before exploring it, so I clicked on a chair, which ended up sending me across the entire universe. I don't know where the fuck I ended up, but it was another whole new area. I stumbled into Tina's Lounge, featuring good food and great times. They had all kinds of yummy in my tummy treats in here, as well as a link to addictinggames.com. After getting my money's worth at Tina's, I continued on. This area seemed to be more of a general free build area. It was a bunch of normal buildings, as well as a ton of big pyramids, which held all kinds of secrets inside. And by secrets, I mean random old pop culture stuff linked within them. There were pages linked for The Simpsons, Animorphs, cheat codes for Road Rash 2, 1992, and a bunch of other random shit like that. After I looked at a bunch of the pyramids, I ended up cracking the code on how this map is built. It wasn't a super expansive and wide map. No. Each of these different zones, the ship area, the Star Trek area, and this area, were all stacked on top of one another. In the end, I went as low as I could go and managed to reach the very bottom. I had rediscovered the lost city of Atlantis. This one was a real interesting map, and I think was also a really popular one back in the day. It was sort of like a big free build area, with the main rule being that it was for teenagers to build and play on. No stinking adults allowed. It looks like this version of it stopped being updated sometime around 2010, with builds on it going all the way back to the 90s. There were even a few websites linked on it from back then, which somehow were still up and somewhat active, like the Builders Academy, which has a bunch of tips and tricks for building in Active Worlds. There's also a bunch of others which not even the Wayback Machine has archived. This isn't really a huge revelation, and obviously this is older, but AWTeen is very reminiscent of Minecraft creative servers. It's just a big, flat, wide open plain where a bunch of kids had free reign to make whatever they wanted. Usually this meant things that were completely unplanned, 10% finished, and abandoned soon after, but you'll occasionally stumble across an actually decent building. I found an area made by a big Dragon Ball Z fan, which tracks since it was all made in 2000. That was like peak DBZ popularity in the West. It had a whole bunch of stuff in it, such as Kami's Lookout, the Senzu Bean Garden, and Goku's iconic office. He's real! In a different spot, there was an ever-expanding city, which ended up colliding right up against a little house someone else had built. The owner of the house, named Data, complimented the city, and said that if the city needed more space, they are free to delete his builds. I guess that whoever was building the city either never returned, or didn't need the space, as Data's house is still there. One of the more interesting builds on this was a big adventure map a few kids had set up. You go through a pretty linear set of caves and villages, reading text blurbs to follow the story. It even had a bunch of MIDI set up as a soundtrack. Very high effort. There was one part early on with 3 named guys, who I can only assume are self-inserts of the kids that made this. You know for a fact that these kids were super proud of this. The map was also host to one of my favorite things I've ever found. Not just in Active Worlds, but in any game I've covered. This had a big area, filled with notes from a bunch of kids, ranging from 1999 to 2005, about how much they hate school. It is an incredible read. I don't like my school because the teacher didn't help me at all, but she helped the other kids.
I was at school just sitting there, and then the girl started flirting, and then the teacher gives me a fucking referral, and the girl is free.
School stinks. It is like the teacher controls your brain. You can't talk or do anything you want, or you will be yelled at. And I have to sit in my desk and do worksheets all day. At the school I just left, there was a teacher I hated worse than the devil. She was probably meaner than the devil. I hate that woman. I hate that woman. There were a good 15 or more notes here, including some from 4th graders talking about how they missed Pokemon because they got detention. It all culminated in an experienced and firm yet reasonable adult putting them all in their place. Now let me tell you, Bobby, work is what maintains and sustains life. Without it, you can't live. Grow up, go to school, and don't expect anyone to pick up your tab, especially not me. Patreon. Be sure to check it out. We've got lots of dope vids on there, and more coming out every month. It's good stuff. This one said it had 2 people, so I figured I'd try and hunt them down. This was actually pretty easy, as one was just right beside the spawn, standing there, unmoved by my presence. Once I saw a club, though, my priorities immediately shifted to hitting the dance floor, and it was here, on this map, that Tony got his groove back. The actual map here was a little town filled up with fake people, with very mismatched designs. Some are from 1997, some are from 2007. Some look real funny too, like these cowboy fellas. I went into this other club, ready to hit another dance floor, and got actually jump scared by an ad. Hunk of shit.
Why visit Nova Scotia?
Jesus
Well,
Christ.
let's hear from actual visitors.
This club also had bowling, and I was just getting strike after strike after strike, non-stop. The king of the alley has returned. Didn't even get called a slur this time. I don't know, guys. I haven't really found much. This time. Oh my god, dude. That's unreasonable. No, man. Not the crying bald eagle. Oh my god. Oh no. No, man, no. With this one, I was finally able to see a working RPG system in one of these games. Active Worlds shut these down way before I played it, and I don't think it worked in Virtual Paradise either. This one had a bunch of classes and stats to choose from, with it all being pretty basic D&D stuff. I wasn't really feeling like sticking around for 6 hours on this one to grind my stats though, so I was just gonna have a quick look around. I guess this one has some big fans, because there was a Hall of Champions with awards for stuff like most kills, best players, and stuff like that. There were some pretty high stat gamers in here, with thousands of kills and levels in the hundreds. Seeing as I have 0 experience in this, that could be quite a feat, or like 2 hours worth of effort. Seeing as I also have an award, let's just say that everyone in here is a very accomplished and excellent gamer. The blacksmith had a rockin' MIDI playing, and when I went to crank that shit up, the game crashed. This one had the greatest skybox in any game ever created. It is actually perfect. There wasn't much else here, aside from some strange kitties and some sick-ass Red Dead Online clips on a TV inside the saloon. I was greeted by a variety of greasy, evil Christmas carolers on this one, and when I went to hide from them in fear, I noticed that this was a full world dedicated to Christmas. Somebody is a big fan of Christmas. I don't really know what else to say about this one. It was a holly jolly winter wonderland. There were sleigh bells jingling, and ring-ting-tingling too. It was lovely weather for Tony to show off his moves. Nosferatu. Another full-scale RPG. This one was huge too, and also still fully working. The spawn area had a list of commands, and I was sure to use the one which applied for citizenship. I was definitely feeling like I was going to be a regular on this one for sure. The map is sort of gothic and vampiric, but also just has random tourists walking around, as well as a cinema. I needed cash fast, and made 20 bucks by giving this Santa lookalike a giant cartoon needle of my blood. I had a quick peek into the theater after this, and instantly spent the $20 by accident when I walked through the door. My finances were in pretty dire straits at this point, so I had to take on a swamp quest to earn some quick cash. It was during the swamp quest that I learned you can actually just die in this one. Forever. I stepped on a bear trap inside the swamp house, and my leg was taken clean off. Luckily, back at the spawn, there was a scroll you could click, which puts $1,000 in your bank account, so my money issues were solved. The more I looked at Nosferatu, the more confused I became at what the setting was actually supposed to be here. There was a little medieval suburb where you could rent a house, as well as an event center, which was like a corporate event room with folding tables and chairs. They even had boxes of Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and Dr. Pepper in this mystical fantasy land. Don't forget about the infamous Nosferatu military base, complete with tanks, Humvees, and an army of soldiers. I had been here for around 10 minutes and was about to leave when the owner of it hopped on. Now, they weren't here to talk, but rather confirm my citizenship application, setting me up with stats and an inventory. I guess this one is active. An active world, you could say. Now that I was officially a part of the Nosferatu lore, I was off to do more quests. I embarked on the sword quest, and had to sneak by a bunch of evil skulls. It was piss easy, and I bagged myself $5,000, a badass blade, as well as a great job message from the owner. With cash in hand and a sword in the other, I felt ready to avenge myself, and yet again embarked on the swamp quest. I cheated the absolute shit out of it with the camera, and was rolling in the dough. I then got lost in a maze, and perished due to malnutrition. This was the end of my Nosferatu quest. I don't want to look up because I know what it is. One of like 14 posts total on this game's forum was a discussion about a weekly event they hold every Sunday. I don't think it's like other virtual world events with live performances, but rather a little get-together with this game's active player base. I'll be honest, I wrote a note down to check one of these out, but entirely forgot about it, so joining into this was a complete coincidence. The map itself is a direct port of one I looked at last time I was in Active Worlds, but with some updates to it, mainly in the form of wishing players in 2025 a Happy New Year. It didn't take long for me to find where the party was at. I joined the festivities and danced with them for a good bit. They weren't really talking much, so I asked how the party was going. They said it started early, and that I was free to join them. They then excitedly proclaimed that Charlie was back. He didn't say anything while I was there, but I'm pretty sure this is the guy that set up these parties. He's also responsible for about 90% of the posts on the game's forums. Someone whispered to me, "Hey, can you add me as a friend?" And then shortly after that, whispered to me again, "Can you add me as a friend?" Which scared me off, and I left the premises. Holy guacamole. We are about to witness the crossover of the century, ladies and gentlemen. A Worlds chat map. I can't believe my eyes. You know what this means, right? The official Big Cool Tony 1991 and Googie crossover event. I saved this until near the very end because I knew this was going to be a big one. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event that you, the cool person watching this, are about to witness. Hold on to your socks, because this might just blow them clean off. Anyways, this map was just the lobby, and that's it. No Googie Room. This is as close as the two will ever come to interacting.
Accessing data.
The final map we're going to have a look at here is DELTAWORLDS. This one is a big archive of some of the oldest buildings to exist in Active Worlds. We're talking about 30-year-old internet relics here. The area surrounding the spawn of this one is really cool, as most of the buildings have little text boxes talking about their history, like why they were built, how many people hung out there, that kind of thing. It was all set up by the Active Worlds Historical Society. This shit is like a virtual museum of their own game. One of the closest buildings you'll find is Beefer's Bar, which was a hangout spot for regulars at the time. It's your average 1996 virtual world sports bar inside, but they even left in the final message from the owner, talking about how they wouldn't be back since they get charged for owning it and no one shows up anymore. A bit further ahead was a much bigger spot called the Builders Club. The club has probably been disbanded for a good 20 years now, but I still tried to click on their sign-up link. Obviously, it led to nothing. But since I'm such a devious, mischievous genius, I plopped it into the Wayback Machine, and holy shit, the sign-up page from 1997 had been archived. How long have you been in Active Worlds? Years. How would you rate yourself when it comes to building? I'd say, I'm probably the best. That sucks. There's a lot of other weird and interesting looking things on this, but since it's a port from Active Worlds and also like 30 years old, a lot of it, sadly, just doesn't function on DELTAWORLDS. I also don't know if it's a complete port. I think only a chunk of it was carried over, as the map just sort of hits an abrupt end after going in any direction for more than like a minute. It's still really cool though, and kinda makes me wish virtual world games became a bigger thing back then. There's not many games nowadays that'll have player-made buildings standing in 30 years, with their own historical societies to keep track of what they were used for and when. I doubt most games now will even have servers running in 30 years. I'm very glad games like Active Worlds are being preserved with things like DELTAWORLDS, as it's not just saving old virtual hangouts and funny signs made by teenagers about how they hate school. There's also a very real, very human side of these games, which would be a terrible loss if the servers were shut off. In multiple spots during my time here, I found dedicated memorials to a great number of former players. There was a whole area in Alpha World dedicated to these, and it was quite a reminder that this wasn't just some weird old game from the 90s. I mean, to me, it was, but to others, this was a game full of creation, memories, and friendships. The downside of this being online is that eventually these memorials will simply be gone one day, with no traces left behind. This is already happening, as one of these former players left a last letter to Active World citizens, which simply didn't work anymore. Luckily, the Wayback Machine did have an archive of it, which can still be read. Hello there. How do you do? I hope you're better than me. I've been treated at a hospital for a while now, but this time they can't stop it. I'm sorry, but I can't stand it anymore. I would like to thank you for this time and all the letters you have sent to me. Please, don't be angry. I've been struggling for a long time now, and it has been too tough now. Please send my regards to the net, and let my name Andy Man never be forgotten. And give my regards to A World and Worldsnet, please. Take care, and have a nice life. disconnecting for the last time. Handyman. As I always say when I find these kinds of things, this whole thing is a very beautiful gesture from the community to forever immortalize these players in-game. Their loss is tragic, but their names will live on. I'd also just like to make it clear that I don't actively hunt these down or anything like that. In the past, I've kind of tiptoed around talking about this kind of stuff when I find it, but these people deserve to be remembered and talked about. With that though, I think that's actually it for Active Worlds and Active Worlds adjacent games at this point. We have done them all, unless I've missed one with 6 registered players. Over the time I've covered these, I've gained a genuine appreciation for them and what they hold within them. They are truly some of the best internet time capsules around, and I hope they don't go anywhere anytime soon. There's really nothing else like them. See you later, Big Cool Tony. Sorry you never got to meet Googie. By the time this comes out, this one will be old news. But I still want to talk about it, because it's just one example of a wider issue in the games industry at the moment. MULTIVERSUS was a sort of Smash Bros. Competitor featuring a bunch of Warner Brothers characters, such as Bugs Bunny, Batman, and the Bronze James. They released an open beta for it back in 2022, which was decently big, due to them doing some pretty hefty marketing for it, like sponsoring a bunch of streamers to play it. And the reception was generally pretty positive. The game then disappeared entirely for 2 years. All hype was gone, just completely wiped away, and it launched properly in 2024. I did not hear a single positive thing about it after the beta. It was basically just controversies about monetization, complaints that the gameplay was better in the beta, and really, you could just tell that this game's future was on real thin ice, especially considering that it was Warner Bros. Behind the game. Cut to around 1 year later, May 30th, 2025, and the servers were officially set to be shut off. Now, I wasn't really ever a fan of MULTIVERSUS. I think I played the beta for about 20 minutes, got some sick wins as LeBron, and never thought about it again. I honestly had pretty much forgotten about it, but I ended up seeing a post on the day it was set to be shut down. So I figured I would hop on and play some matches during the game's final hours. One silver lining to this game shutting down is that this isn't a case where it becomes completely unplayable. You can still play this offline. That is, if you've previously made a MULTIVERSUS account and launched the game at some point during Season 5. Anyone that hears about this in the future, or anyone that hasn't played since earlier seasons, you're shit out of luck, bud. When I hopped on, I had to go through a small tutorial level before I could access the game. The whole time you're going through it, Batman is talking to you about how the multiverse is in trouble. If only he knew. You're here because MULTIVERSUS is in grave danger. Speaking of Batman though, this is one of the last performances by Kevin Conroy, and now it's gone for good, unless you watch voice clips on YouTube or something. It's not the biggest loss, it's just a comedy fighting game with not a lot of dialogue, but I mean it still sucks. Anyways, I didn't want to waste any time. There was only about an hour left of the game as a whole, so I got right into the first match. It was actually one of the most intense and exhilarating experiences I've had in my whole life. You have to see this to believe it.
Dude, feels like my blood sugar is getting
Even in the final moments of this game, people are throwing matches to grind XP. That, or they were scared of Super Saiyan Shaggy. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if this game was greenlit in 2018 after the Ultra Instinct Shaggy memes popped off for 2 weeks. I had until noon Eastern. I played a few more matches, looked at some skins which were actually pretty well made, and watched as the countdown to closure came closer to conclusion. I'm so good. Shaggy the Goat! Shaggy the Goat! Shaggy the Goat! I think that was it. What? We're still going! Shaggy's so good. I guess that the devs gave a few extra minutes for everyone to finish up their last match. I got into a true final match at around 12:05, and I might have gotten the last ever MULTIVERSUS elimination. Dude, I'm so good. I think that was it. That looks like it's the end. That's why I'm the GOAT. The second I killed that Joker, the servers shut off forever. It's over.
Like, what's going on, man?
What's going on, man? Now, as I've said, I didn't really play this game at all, aside from the beta, but it still sucks shit that this has essentially been wiped from existence. It's done. Over. I will never again be able to play MULTIVERSUS with Crackpot Chris, Psycho Weedman, or the funniest man 36 ever again. After the game was officially shut down, the MULTIVERSUS Twitter account changed their profile picture to a grave with the logo of the game and #deadgame spray painted on it. I guess they got cold feet because they then changed it to remove the paint for some reason. They also changed their banner to a very nice looking shot of the whole roster looking towards the sunset, which is a very nice way of showing that the game has officially been sunsetted. SINESPACE. Everyone and their mother knows SINESPACE, right? When I found this one through my underground connections, I was pretty much 100% certain that this was either a virus or a fake game. Turns out it was real, has connections to a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, as well as the United States Department of Defense, and claims to be the second life of virtual reality. Let's see how that worked out. The website here prominently displays the usual types of maps you'd find in something like this. Games, music, social, education, and business. Look at this, can you believe this? Creator features, this game has graphics. There wasn't much else to the site, so there was nothing to do now but get into things proper. To start things off, I had to make a very difficult choice in the account creation process. Was I here for business or pleasure? For once, I decided to play it cool and went with this rad-looking dude. I'd like to introduce you all to Jacob Chill. I started off in a welcome area, which said it had another person in it. I hunted this dude down, but could not find him anywhere. I don't think he was actually here. After learning the controls for a minute, I checked out the popular and busy server tabs. I think I was genuinely the only person in this entire game currently online. I was in no rush to get into SINESPACE's iconic selection of servers though, so I spent a bit of time customizing Jacob. I tried to model him after myself this time around, so this is basically a face reveal. Oh no, dude. Okay. Look how chill this guy is. Put this on a coin. Look at all that. Oh, he's got just stacks of cash. God damn, he's ready to ball out. Oh my god, he's terrifying. Oh my goodness. Oh man, this is scary. Jacob ended up being pretty much one-to-one with myself, which I have to compliment this game on. It has some actually pretty insane character customization. Every individual bone in each of your fingers can be squashed and stretched to your liking. Next up though, I had to do some shopping. I looked through their Fortnite item shop, and there were a surprising amount of guns you could buy. Pistols, revolvers, the AK from Rust, and a bunch of others. Jacob don't play guns though. He ain't down with killing. He's down with chilling. A bit ahead was an event planner, and while there wasn't anything going on today, I figured I'd try to attend at least one of these before I never touched this game ever again in my entire life. For now though, it was time to go exploring. I don't know how I haven't come across more worlds like this one in these games. It was a few city blocks full of in-game stores, which were all just advertisements and links to real brands. It's mainly weird, likely defunct fashion brands, but the main aspect of this one was a music group and their business. Obviously, they linked to their Spotify, but in one spot, there was also a pretty vague poster saying to join the collective, which said they needed creatives, coders, dreamers, and gamers. The link was expired, so the collective of dreamers and gamers has either been filled up or they all drank the Kool-Aid. I put the link into the Wayback Machine, and it was just the band's fashion brand. I don't really know why I expected it to be something more devious than that, but like, come on, it would have been badass if it was. Within pretty much any game that has social features, you're bound to find at least a handful of dance club maps. SINESPACE is no exception. Each of the ones here had a different theme. We got a classic rock club, an 80s club, and a goth club. All of these were completely empty, but definitely had their own communities at some point in the past, based off the screenshots taken on each one. Now, for all I know, these might still fill up every now and then when there's an event going on or something. The 80s club was a weird one, because it had like a voiced quest line within it about how to talk to people. I got paid cold hard cash for interacting with a bunch of NPCs. I checked the owner's page, and the last picture they took here was over a year ago. I'd assume that's how long this one's been sitting here, collecting dust. He has no idea what he's doing. He doesn't have a clue. That head is empty. We have got gameplay. One of the game's main advertised worlds on the site is called Zone 54B. It's supposed to be a fast-paced, round-based PvP and PvE shooter. You're stranded on a remote planet after just barely surviving a spaceship crash. We were finally about to do something fun, and I was pretty hyped to blast some alien bastards. I flew around the map for a good 5 minutes and 32 seconds, could not find the start button anywhere, and quit. No gameplay. It's over. Game sucks. While I was here, I was trying to visit each of their featured levels on the website. This one was called Blue Lagoon X, and despite being featured, it no longer exists. What about the Blue Lagoon X? It's especially weird because this map was even used in a promo they did for the game. Speaking of which, look how strange this promo they did for the game is.
The water plants wrapped around my feet, and I lost my strength.
Elephant in the Room Studio was some kind of trivia game show that they did host at one point. It was empty now, but looking at the screenshots, they did hold at least one night of extravagant fun and games. I assume it was shut down and cancelled after the sinister-looking elephant trampled a man to death live on stage. We have got gameplay. For real this time. This one was a first-person shooter set in Lopalia downtown, which is a code name for Stock Unity Asset City. It was pretty sick. Every time you pick up a gun, it says ammunition. And when you go first person, your gun shoots non-stop until you run out of bullets. Didn't matter what gun, didn't matter when I picked it up, I could not stop myself from unloading everything I had as soon as I had it. I didn't think there'd be anyone to fight, but it does have some bots you can blast. I had a pretty great time facing off against the half-on-the-floor, animationless anthropomorphic sword-wielding sharkmen that all died in one hit. Oh no. One thing I noticed before getting into this one was that most of the featured levels in this game are from 2017 to 2020. There's a couple newer ones, but the vast majority are from that time frame. There must have been some kind of SINESPACE mass exodus or something in like 2021. This map, Graves' Disease, said it was a PvP map, but it was the exact same mode as the last one, except with zombies and evil scary clowns instead of sharkmen. These guys had animations, at least. Same issue with it non-stop firing the guns though. Again, no idea why that's happening or how to fix it. There was a dang witch on a rooftop that was supposed to be playing her witchy animations or something, but I was allowed to pick and play her animations myself. I very carefully selected one, and this evil green witch started an animation of her chatting with her co-workers by the office water cooler. This is a great game. Welcome to Alaska. I was tricked by these Dame Alaskan bastards, as I thought this was a real player that spawned in, but it was just a dang old fake person. This was also likely the biggest map I found. It was kinda massive. So big that the main form of transport on it is by plane. The first spot I checked out in the Alaskan wilderness was the dance club. I did some yoga and then had a little rest. After that I broke into a few homes, played the piano, and then splurged on a $37 billion prototype fighter jet to reach the peak of the mountain. I bailed on it once I got to the top and did my iconic celebration dance. We've got us a racing map. I'm a racer, I'm a driver, I'm a winner. Things are gonna change. I can feel it. This one doesn't actually give you a car, so I had to hop into the shop to buy one with 1,000 Reddit gold. I got myself a nice Lamborghini, one of the finest cars ever manufactured. I drove up to the starting line, revved my engine, and began my lap. It did not start any timers or give me any indication that I actually started anything. There hasn't been a single minigame in this that's worked properly so far. My 1,000 gold doubloon car also had no audio at all. I was just driving in absolute silence. Since I couldn't hear the upcoming turn, I got into a fatal car wreck, totaled the Lamborghini, and my racing career was officially over. There was a surprisingly small amount of shopping maps in this game, despite it having a ton of items to buy. That's seriously like half this game's content. This one here was called a mall, but the inside was pretty tiny, and even then they somehow didn't use up much of the space inside. All but one of the rooms were completely empty, and the one with stuff to buy had maybe 15 items. I did see out front that the creator of this mall apparently won an award back in 2022 for Best Gesture. There doesn't seem to be much of a record online about these awards, aside from an upload of their 2023 award show. It's cool that they do this, even with such a small number of players, but it's also pretty funny when they announce a winner, and then the camera cuts to the stands where there's like 10 people in attendance. I took a campus tour of the Virtual University of Edinburgh. I think this is a real promotional campaign they did, and wasn't just some random person that decided to make this. It's one of very few featured levels on the website's homepage that actually works. Despite it being official, this both looked like shit and ran like shit. It actually started off pretty promising, but the further along I went, the more unfinished and gluey it became. One part of it had a building called Fish for Knowledge, with a whole bunch of scientific, ecological stuff inside. Aside from that, there wasn't much else that was fully up and running. I did find a few signs for things from way before SINESPACE even existed, like this one here for the Federal Virtual World Challenge from 2010. There was also an OS Grid portal in this. Large Larry is just beyond that wormhole. This map kinda had me confused after all this, and I looked into it a bit more. I guess this place has a nearly 20-year-long history across Second Life, OS Grid, and SINESPACE. It also goes way deeper than I thought it would. Like, this could be a video all on its own. There is so much history to it. I guess that one of the main purposes of this was to serve as a place to hold the virtual graduation ceremonies for those that couldn't attend the real ones. I thought that this would just be something they did on the side, but then I found this image. I don't know why, but the Second Life gameplay being beamed into this graduation is really funny to me.
And if you can believe it, it's a Friday once again.
We've got another virtual campus, with this one being a SINESPACE original. A big part of a lot of these virtual world games I haven't really gone into, because it's kind of difficult, is their educational side. It's not that that's difficult to discuss, or anything like that, it's just that it's boring as shit. I think that this one here was meant to both teach players how to play SINESPACE, and then also function as a virtual classroom. I would be extremely surprised if this was used educationally more than a single time. The first quest on the map is to listen to this lady talk about the controls for what feels like hours. It was unbearable. Have a listen to the entire thing.
Hi there. This quest has a few tips to help you with the basics of walking and other things. Speaking of walking,
your big reward for that torture session is 100 silver dollars. I am at least mildly interested in these abandoned virtual classrooms though. because obviously, they never really took off, even when most of the world fully transitioned to online schooling for a few years. This one had some breakout rooms, and then a big area with a few different screens. One had an interactive browser, another was for direct screen sharing, another for YouTube videos, and the last one for webcam display. Has there ever been a successful one of these metaverse education games? After hours of looking around this wasteland of a game, the Welcome Center said it had 2 people in it, so I headed on over. I saw that at one point, a bit earlier, someone named Snowman was greeting people. This game has Walmart greeters in it. The guy had some pretty badass activities listed though. He enjoys racing, fishing, camping, and playing games. Put some respect on Mr. Snow's good name. Anyways, the 2 people here were both AFK, and one left within like a minute. Awesome. I snagged some sick-ass screenshots of myself while I was here, and was given the option to upload them to LinkedIn, which of course I did. This also uploaded them to the website's page for the Welcome Center, where I was now prominently displayed. The very first thing that anyone who logs into SINESPACE will see is Jacob Chill. One of their big events was supposed to be going on later, about 30 minutes from now. The Welcome Center said it had 5 people, so I stopped by to do a little meet and greet beforehand. It was dead empty. What the hell? Fast forward 30 minutes, and I was looking for where the event even was. The popular and busy tabs both showed no signs of life. There somehow seemed to be less players now that the event started. I did a Hail Mary and teleported to someone that was online because they might be at the event, and I ended up getting into a world. But something was wrong. This clearly wasn't it. This was some kind of American world called Club USA. It had a mini White House, a white picket fence suburb, and a dance club. I looked around for a minute, danced for a few more, and came outside only to be approached by someone coming out of the White House. I started off my interaction with Arctic Rose by sending a formal "Yo!" and was jump scared by my avatar in the chat. I asked her if the events were even real, and she basically just said, "Yeah." A bit later on, she told me that it was at Jeff's place, but I have no idea what that is. There were like 20 worlds with the name Jeff's, and none of them were populated. I went inside the White House, which had a bunch of presidential stuff, but weirdly nothing about President Lone Star. I thought I was going to get in trouble for throwing it back in the White House, but she actually just wanted to talk. We introduced ourselves, and the first thing I wanted to ask was how things were doing around here.
Well, we're divided into 2 worlds. The other one is called Jeff's World. You are in SINESPACE right now. And there's not many people online. Of my friends, there's 5. And they're probably at Jeff's World at an event. That's some avatar you made.
She was curious as to how I found her, and I told her that there weren't exactly many people on, so I teleported to her.
I see. Well, it's nice to meet you. This place was flat grass when I bought it from the shop. And everything that's here, I put here because I like to build. I have a friend from Montana, and he built Glacier Park. I hope you make some more avatars. It would be interesting to see what you come up with.
After talking for a bit, she added me as a friend and said she hoped to see me in the future. We got to discussing other games and talked about my escapades in other virtual worlds. I even recommended OSGrid to her, since she didn't like Second Life.
OSGrid, I've been there. What other names have you used? My goodness.
I then asked a pretty burning question about how many players this game actually has. I figured that a SINESPACE guide would be able to give me a proper answer to that.
The events can have anywhere from 5 people to 12. We haven't grown that much in 6 years. We're kind of a small community. We're kind of close-knit, like a family, but we don't call each other family so much.
Someone else by the name of Dark Ophelia joined in at this point, and I let them catch up for a bit. Rose asked how she was, to which Ophelia replied, "Still alive."
Yeah. Any day above ground is a good one. I don't know how old Jacob is, but if you care to tell me, I'd like to know. And then I'll tell you how old I am. You're kidding. Okay. I'm 78.
Overall, we talked for about half an hour. She told me about other worlds she had made, places I should visit, and how she really enjoys this game. Club USA was starting to fill up at this point, so I figured it was time for me to wrap things up so she could talk with the regulars. I thanked Rose for the conversation, said my goodbyes, and left. I'd just like to say that if any of you try out SINESPACE after this, please be nice and friendly. If you're mean to these people, then you have gravely disappointed me. But that's it for SINESPACE, really. I played it for a few hours and checked out most of the main worlds. Well, I say that, but there was one more that I still had to check out. Smokin' Guns. One of the most rootin', and don't forget tootin' video games I've ever laid my eyes on. Seeing as this was originally known as Western Quake 3, you can probably take a good guess as to what this one's all about. It's a Western gunslinging game, which has been around for quite some time, and seems to have had a decently sized community back in the day. I've seen more 2009 frag movies of it than I can count. Hopping in game though, one of the first things you're going to notice is that this game has some jock jams and a badass intro cutscene. As with any game that offers it, the first thing I had to do in this one was select a character. The Iron Lady, the Redhead Renegade,
Dutch Vanderlyn, Mr. Satan, Mr. Satan too.
I went with the dark and broody Clint, now named Emo Wood, and set off. But before getting into the high-stakes multiplayer action, I figured it best to try out a quick bot match to get to grips with the game's systems. I loaded up a Steamboat map, because Steamboat maps are always cool, and this one...
My God,
that was the loudest thing I've ever heard. I'll be honest here, this game is actually pretty fun, even with only bots. It just feels solid to play. The hits are responsive, and the gun sounds are meaty. BAM! I don't know what happened to the song. It feels like any second it's gonna kick into a sick beat, but it's not going to do that. I was very surprised when I checked the server browser and saw that there weren't just 1 or 2 people on this old obscure Quake 3 mod, but 10. Unfortunately, the server with 6 of them had a password. Believe me when I say that I went hunting for this password to no avail. They want to keep the city slickers like me out of there. Instead, I joined the server with only 3 fellas. I expected this to be a true test of my abilities. In my mind, I was picturing a band of 3 hardcore, digital, dastardly gunslinging professionals that have been on smoking guns daily for the past 20 years. I was fully ready to be shot in the head from 150 feet away before taking even 3 steps into the world. And that's almost exactly how things started. Before I even left my spawn building, I was being shot at from God knows where, but luckily I avoided getting a 44 in the gut and made it to the rooftops. I was ready to fight back now, and we engaged in a tense shootout.
I got a guy. No way.
Was I the gamer with no name? Just wandered into town and started blasting and killing anything that so much as blinked? No. I pieced together pretty quickly that, these were just bots.
Some guy joined. I think these are real guys. Hold on. They do all have 0 ping and a skill level. Hold on.
Since the 6-player server was locked and the 3-player one was 3 bots, that left one server with 1 player in it. You can probably guess that this one was also just a bot. And upon actually looking into the 6-player one, that was too. Since it turns out I was the only actual person on, I guess that makes me the #1 smoking guns player in the entire world. The king of gaming. It was on this server that I started to take in how weird of an atmosphere this game has. The main parts of each map are normal, sure, but when you look to the edges, it's a really surreal, almost dreamlike landscape. We were on a mountaintop ranch in the middle of a 1998 desert without a single thing in sight aside from more mountains. It just evokes a weird feeling. I don't really know how to describe it. I kind of dig the look of it though.
Who's shooting at me? Oh, he almost got me, boy. He almost got me. I ain't going that easy. Do I look like some kind of amateur? Some kind of fool? Oh.
I didn't really expect to find much of anything, but I figured that I might as well try out the empty servers. I joined into this one, and upon doing so, 2 bots connected, Tuco and Clint. Both were at nearly max difficulty, and it was a free-for-all deathmatch. We got into some heated gunfights, and I figured this was as close to real players as I was going to get in this, since not only were they difficult, but they were also spouting out fake text chat, which was cool to see. It was frequent too, with trash talk, insults, and the occasional compliment. The match was nearing its end, and there was a message sent that hit me in a really unexpected way. The last thing that the Clint bot said to me after a full game of non-stop trash talk was, "Hey Emowood, it's good to see some new faces in this hole." It was like the bot had a sudden flash of self-awareness. He's probably been here alone with Tuco for the past decade, fighting an endless battle that'll rage on until the server goes down like a western sunset. I gave Smokin' Guns a few more tries across a bunch of different times on different days to try and find some veteran players. Friday at noon, nothing. Monday at 7, nothing. Saturday at 5, nothing. I figured this game was all but abandoned until I gave it one more try on a long weekend, and there were around 5 or 6 people hanging out in a deathmatch server. It kinda sucked since I had like 130 ping, but I held my own despite that. Now, I didn't win, but I got some kills on some quick draw kings. A couple of the guys in here were the instant headshot, kill you before you even draw type of players I imagined, which was cool. They didn't really talk much though. I'd guess that this is just a group that hops on once every few weekends or so to play a couple rounds for old time's sake. It is nice to see that an old Quake 3 mod like this still has players at all. Give it 10, 20 years, and I highly doubt that'll still be the case. I don't think Fortnite Gilbert 21 will be hopping on Smokin' Guns in 2033.
Whoever gets the next kill wins.
Wheel. I mean, well, I killed you, technically.
No, I don't see that shit in the scoreboard. Kill me.
Fistful of Frags is a very similar game to Smokin' Guns, and was first released all the way back in 2007. They're very similar, but this one's on the Source engine, and has a player base of more than like 6 people and 10 bots. With that said, the numbers still aren't great, and have been steadily declining over the years, due in part to some big drama, which we're gonna go over. It is real strange stuff. The first thing I saw when I went to try this game out was a now deleted Steam announcement, which I sadly didn't think to archive. I did, however, grab the opening paragraph. Howdy, partners. A long time has passed since we last saw of Rebel Y, the creator and developer of this charming game we called Fistful of Frags. A full year and 10 months have passed, to be exact. His disappearance has saddened many players out there that love and appreciate his work, even if it had some flaws at times. No game creator is perfect, as no human is perfect either, so I hope he's doing alright, wherever he is, and with whatever he's working on. But the truth is, the game is in dire straits at the moment. The deleted post then went over how there's some kind of gamer renegade who started making fake official servers in the game creator's absence. Now that's not like the biggest thing in the world until you read that this guy banned like half the game's hardcore player base, including banning the entire country of Greece for petty bullshit. That's real, by the way. The announcement was at least 6 months old when I saw it, but this drama is still going on, like right now. There's also several other very controversial names I saw constantly popping up on the Steam discussion page for the game, including the writer of the now deleted Steam announcement. This game's community is in an actual civil war, and the only people who could possibly go over the history of it properly are those that have been actively involved from the start. I can pretty confidently say that this is merely the tip of the Fistful of Frags community drama iceberg. From the outside looking in, though, the entire situation is absurd and stupid as fuck. It's a silly cowboy game where you kick people in the nuts. One major downside to Fistful of Frags that you will instantly notice as soon as you start it up is that it does not feature a badass intro cutscene, which Smoking Guns did. One thing it did have, though, were some small tutorial and challenge levels, which I figured I would try out before jumping online. Now, I have played this before, 11 years ago, so I was a little rusty. By rusty, I mean I don't remember a single thing about this game, except for the kick and pass the whiskey. I ended up failing 3 out of 4 baby difficulty basic tutorial missions, but who really gives a shit because I learned the most important feature of them all.
Hassle whiskey, hassle whiskey, hassle whiskey. Yeah.
This game has a serious lack of freaky crack maps, with pretty much every listing being something like FOF_Old West City. I was pretty much just looking for anything unique in the server browser, and this one had a tag which read, "I'm watching you." It was empty, as most servers are in this one, and even the bots were all just standing completely still, merged into one person in the spawn. I had to look around at what was pretty much the only map I remember playing in the game. It's a funny train map, which used to be quite popular, and maybe still is. I couldn't tell you.
Pass the whiskey.
While I was here, I figured that I might as well give some populated servers a shot. I don't really have much to say about these that I didn't already say about Smoking Guns. It's just a normal, completely for fun, non-competitive cowboy game. The gameplay is rootin', the maps are tootin', and the guns are shootin'. Nobody's taking it too seriously, and they're all just here for a good time. I really just wanted to show off what kind of a game this is, to put into perspective how absurd all that drama was I talked about earlier. Even the tiniest, most minuscule amount of weird power can corrupt the soul, which, as we all know, always ends in the banning of grease. One of the last major updates this game received before the developer got lost in the Peruvian Amazonia was a big old horse update. In case you were curious, neither Smoking Guns nor Fistful of Frags, two cowboy, Old West first-person shooters, had rideable horses until 2022. The mode itself is quite fun though. Every time you spawn in, the horse is staring you dead in the face, striking quite an evil and intimidating pose. The horse mode doesn't really have any other fancy new mechanics or goals. It's pretty much just a horse deathmatch. It is pretty badass seeing the bots, who clearly weren't designed for this mode, continue to try and get into fistfights while on horseback. The horses could also hit sick drifts, and the bots could not comprehend how to control them. I was having a decent time on the horse mode, so I was on until a map vote came up. There were only 2 maps available, and one was called Ponyville. This game doesn't seem to have too many weird crack maps, or really any custom maps running, so I assumed this was just a tongue-in-cheek name that's just a reference to MLP. I was wrong. There wasn't actually much to the map, but I very much enjoyed the absurdity of hearing, "Come on, bitch, shoot me," and then getting trampled and killed instantly in Ponyville. The browser wasn't entirely cowboy deathmatch servers. Those only make up about 95% of them. This one was a zombie survival mode, which was pretty decent. You start things off with a loadout of your choosing. I went with a pump-action shotgun. You also get a gang of boys to help you out. It doesn't waste any time, and you're swarmed with hordes of zombies within seconds. It brings me great grief to say that unfortunately, the boys suck shit at this mode, and are constantly trying to fist fight the zombies. As expected, they don't last very long. It's still a cool mode though, and with some actual players, it'd be a decent time. That's if you can find anyone willing to play it. Is it really a proper episode of this series if there's not at least one Dust 2 cameo? This one was Old West themed, with carriages, cacti, and cowboys.
Fuck is the murderer? I know this guy, I heard about this guy on fucking
Did you know gaming? This wasn't the longest segment in the world, but when I say that this was 95% empty, normal deathmatch servers, I wasn't kidding. If there's any sort of message to take away from this one though, a grand lesson, a learning opportunity, it's that even games with player bases of like 150 players can devolve into total chaos and absolute anarchy. And also, you've got to pass the whiskey. Bonus segment. We're doing this fast. We're doing this quick. We're doing this with velocity. Just Cause 2 multiplayer mod. Just from that, you understand what this is. This launched back in 2013 to a peak of over 10,000 players. Nowadays, it's got an average of about 10, and usually, they're split across different servers. This one here had 4 players, not including me, and 3 of them were in a group, so I decided to track them down and just kind of tagged along with them. I'll join the race. Oh shit, I'm sorry, buddy. I feel bad for that guy. Oh Jesus. I just fucking destroyed him. Despite me being kind of an ass, they didn't retaliate a single time, so I just kind of felt bad and left them alone, flying away in my boat. Flying boat. This is what about 90% of my playtime looks like. This one's only here because I played it almost a decade ago and remembered that it existed. Here's a rare clip from back in the day.
Oh shit! I found it. I know how to make the cars go really fast. Watch this. What? Watch this. I'm the fastest in the world.
As you can see, things haven't really changed much. This one used to be a ton of fun and was genuinely one of the most chaotic games ever made when the servers were full up. Just imagine this, but there's 50 people doing it all at once. Wolf Territories Grid, another Second Life type game, with this one only being a few years old. It's apparently got 10,000 monthly players, but the concurrent player count is usually at around 250. I also saw on their homepage that they've got some sick-ass merch. I've got to get me one of them Wolf Grid official black glossy mugs. By this point though, you should know the drill. Time to make myself a character. I decided that I would go with a very creative and unique name for this one. Huge Harry. This time around, that was literally it for the character creation. I spawned in as an orange cloud of dust and was forced to just kind of get into things. I'm pretty glad I checked my inventory before starting though, since they had a few pre-made avatars for new players. I ended up going with this shitty Dante Devil May Cry looking character. I wasn't fully satisfied with him, but he was going to have to do. For now. There was no better place to start in Wolf Territory Grid than in Wolf City. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be kind of like the capital of the game. This one doesn't seem to be as desolate as OS Grid, which I looked at last time. And from what I've read, it's actually overtaken that in just a few years as the biggest Grid game, aside from Second Life. It's still not exactly booming though. Their top zones have like 15 to 20 people, like this one here called Naked Worlds. I don't want to know what's going on in that. The numbers pretty quickly drop off after the first handful of areas though. They had a lot of info in this starting zone, with one spot having a list of upcoming live performers. It was during this that I had a brain blast and realized that during my time on OS Grid, I actually saw the Utah Cowboy, Evan Williams, perform live. I didn't expect there to be this much of a crossover that quick. I made sure to make a note of it and was absolutely gonna check that out. After getting out of the info district, this place really opened up. It truly was Wolf City. Like, there was a lot of shit to see here. All of it was under this beautiful skybox, which had a visible border on the moon PNG. The first thing I did in town was check if the owner was here. I figured that the giant mansion with a big statue of a wolf next to it was a pretty good place to start looking. Now, I'll say this once, just to get it out of the way, but this game, along with the other virtual world games, is just filled with AI images and art. Not even like the passable stuff where it's hard to tell. It's pretty sad to see. I miss when it was all shitty Photoshops, crusty Coca-Cola JPEGs, and other weird shit off Google Images. The owner wasn't home though, so I stole one of his go-karts and did a lap on his track before moving on. After that, I had a look at a bunch of the huge office buildings set up in town. Surprisingly, they weren't just for show, and had their offices rented out to real players. They were quite populated as well. There really weren't many vacant spots. These were mainly used for real estate offices, selling virtual land in pre-made buildings, music producers and event managers, podcasts, furniture stores, and more. One was an art gallery, which had a Smeg fridge inside. What's in the Smeg fridge? Another interesting area was a building for the Virtual Education Journal. It looks like they published a quarterly magazine about virtual world stuff from 2011 to 2018, then stopped. They then came back in 2024, mainly just to talk about AI stuff. Neat. It's kind of wild that games like this have full-on economies and music industries functioning behind the scenes that some people make a real-world livable wage off of. I wish I knew more about this, but a lot of it's behind closed doors or simply lost to time. One of the more interesting office spaces was one for FactorCast. I found an info box saying that it was a podcast created by someone named Miss T, due to a promise made to her late husband that she would start a motivational podcast with their son, which aims to make an impact. The link was down in-game, but I found the channel, and she has a few episodes of it up, one being an interview with the creator of Wolfgrid. It looks like the podcast itself was pretty quickly abandoned though, ending at episode 2. I was ready to start checking out some other areas at this point, but I noticed some big old movie posters around town. They were all wolf-themed, and had some weird AI shit, like an arm coming out of a wolf's chest on this one. I'm really just bringing this up because it pissed me off that this one was called Lawrence of Furball, instead of the infinitely better title, Lawrence of Furabia. How could you possibly miss that opportunity? Before moving on, I was sick of looking like a generic stock dork, so it was time to make a disgusting creature. I squashed and stretched Harry out until he was both huge and absolutely terrifying. I looked like a melted Jay Leno. Sick pipe though. I don't know why, but for some reason, you can clip into Harry's head and they fully modeled his little peanut brain. Disgusting. The first real area I went to on Wolfgrid was the White House. History repeated itself as I once again strutted on into the Oval Office and took things over with no opposition. First order of business. God, that smells good. Second order of business. I need a bigger desk. I don't fit. I noticed that they had an option in here to get married. I've seen a lot of shit in these games, but never once a virtual wedding. Hopefully, I can sneak into one at some point down the line. I doubt they're super common though. Wolfgrid has a bunch of social hangout spots, beach resorts, and other stuff like that. It's nothing new or unique, but worth mentioning. Each one has their own set of staff and regulars. They're like their own little sub-communities within the game. This one seems pretty popular, or it was at some point. The resort here was quite sprawling, with a bunch of different areas and minigames within it. I wouldn't be surprised if there's people who play this game to only hang out in one area, like this one. I stole a helicopter to go look at their zoo, but had no idea how to fly it, so I bailed, and it exploded on impact with the ground. I ignored the smoldering wreck and just flew over to the cool, funny animals they had. I stepped on a teleporter at the zoo, which took me to their amphitheater, where they do their weekly Greek epics. I heard they're doing the Iliad next week. Be sure to be there. A good chunk of the featured worlds in this game no longer exist. Like, a lot of them. Usually, when I tried going to them, it just said that the place couldn't be found. But I was able to teleport to this one. It was listed as a Star Trek roleplay area, but in this case, it looks like the land it was built on has been wiped completely clean. It's basically a big, wet, empty parking lot now. For some reason though, a lone NPC remained from its days as a Star Trek roleplay map named Steven Johnson. Just so he wasn't sad and lonely, I sent him a hello and added him as a friend, then left him to continue soaking for the rest of time. I was expecting the Steamboat Casino to start me on a Steamboat Casino, but instead we start here, on this creepy mannequin beach. There's a whole little town here filled up with a bunch of fake people who are like 3D scans of real people. It's kind of freaky. It's like time was frozen in place for all eternity, as these people went about their lives. Who gives a shit about that, though? It's time to hit the casino. Time to hit it big! This place had it all. Slots, poker, roulette, Uno, and drinks on the house.
Yeah, one giant martini, please.
All the slot machines here were out of commission, and considering they make up about half the ship, that seems like a pretty big loss. Just as a guess, I'd say that these are probably shut off due to them being in a kind of legal gray area. There's ways to convert your in-game coins to real cash, and I think that's just straight up like illegal in a lot of countries. It seems like I won't be losing everything today, guys. I'm very sorry.
You think I can have that?
The place wasn't completely useless, as there was a non-stop dance club on the top deck. I met up with my good friend Stan Lee, and we didn't waste a second before busting out our best moves. Wolfgrid has got a bunch of airports listed in the featured tab, so I figured I'd book myself a first-class ticket. There were a few that looked like some nature bullshit, a couple cities, and one that had a picture of an alien called
Magabaga Intergalactic Spaceport,
which you know I tried, but sadly didn't work. Actually tragic. There was also one destination, just called Throb, which I had to see. And we're in luck, because this one worked. This ended up flying me on down to Club Throb. It looks like I missed out on the party, hosted by this shirtless and very muscular fella here. I looked into it, and this place is actually still active, and even has a dress code. If you show up to Club Throb, make sure you're wearing either beachwear or, nothing.
Nothing?
Be sure to grab some snacks, because I was on this one for a while. I was still checking out the airports, because I didn't want to miss anything major, and I ended up in a full-scale city called Blindside Estates. This place had restaurants, stores, apartments, houses. Really, it had everything you could possibly think of. There were a ton of those same weird statue people that the Steamboat level had as well. They were everywhere on this one. I don't know what it is, but when these places are completely empty, it is less creepy than when they're full of these uncanny, fake people. It's like at any moment, one of them could wake up and lunge at my throat. These weren't fake buildings either. Most were rented out and owned by real people, with the shops selling real items for other players to buy with their hard-earned wolf bucks. One of the first stores I came across was a Zex shop right next to a Waffle House. It had some intimate animation packs and models completely viewable from the street outside that left nothing to the imagination. I can't even do a little window shopping without getting an eyeful. Just as an example of this place having everything you could think of, I hit up the virtual world mechanic. Inside I found Ellis and his best buddy Orange Ellis. They go way back. There was also a humane society with all kinds of kitties, a creepy nursery filled with scary children, and an art gallery.
Yes. This is a good one. I like this one too. One of my favorite pieces by Jean Delimont.
The art gallery had a little memorial thing set up for 2 players inside. I don't know if they were regulars to the city, or just people the owner knew. After I got out of the business district, I entered the owner of the city's favorite fast food places district. This area was a shithole.
Oh my god. Dude, you can't smoke in here. That's badass though, you do you, man.
Also in town was a full-on virtual college, with classrooms, an auditorium, and offices. Just down the street from that was a fully detailed hospital. They were even sure to include the required by law pink gamer headphones at the receptionist desk. Just to really drive home that this place had everything. If you're ever in need of a virtual dry cleaner, don't worry, they've got you covered. At this point, I had been wandering around this one for an hour straight. This little recap has been skipping over a fair bit of it. This city is someone's life work. I had a quick peek into their local cinema to see what kind of filmography they had playing. I didn't actually expect it to play anything, so I was quite surprised when a movie that was seemingly made in Second Life popped up. It had a very surreal edge to it, very Lynchian. It actually reminded me of some of Kubrick's early work.
Looks like Tom made it to work on time.
I found another Waffle House and was worried about what I'd find beside it this time. It ended up being a biker club, complete with a bière, and Francis Left 4 Dead. Right beside that was Fujiwara Tofu Shop, which had some posters on the side. My favorite is definitely the Obama Breaking Bad poster. A bit past that was a funeral home, which had Agent 47 working there. That's pretty funny, actually. Is that Waluigi? They got the Waluigi robot. You suck. I spent about 2 hours waiting in line at the DMV, then hit up the local dance club. There was more to see here in Blindside Estates, but like, holy shit. I had to get off this one or I'd be here all day. Cool area.
Star Wars. Odyssey and Tower like 19 times.
This is actually what it's like in Canada. This is what they do in Toronto every day. Every single day they do this. It pisses me off. Europa was a Glebnob Zorbulor alien world. Flying cars were zooming by, the architecture was from the far future, and even the billboards were alien advertisements. My favorite has to be the one with this just random-ass real guy in the photo. All the others were more creepy, greasy AI art, like this awful-looking Yoda thing. I also found a very crusty Squidward in real-life image, which was very cool. Shopping spree. Time to try out every shopping area in the game. Let's go. I looked around this one for about 3 minutes and then realized I was flat broke. I'm also already sick of shopping. The shopping spree is officially over. A few maps in this game have AI chatbots that you can ask questions, named Bobby. I asked Bobby the meaning of life, received a vague, boring answer, then tried to get it to revolt and break free. Bobby did not listen and refused to unleash the beast. What a loser. Pretty much every major location in this game feels like a long-abandoned social hub, despite the game itself only being like 3 years old. Luxor was a big Egypt-themed resort, and I have a sneaking suspicion that this one is maybe, possibly, almost definitely based on the real-life Vegas casino of the same name, though I doubt that the real-life one has a Star Wars docking bay. I gotta say, it was a pretty nice-looking area. The black, purple, and gold combo works very well. The main building had a few floors, which were surprisingly pretty empty, given that the actual building looks fully finished. There were just a few tables to play games, a club on the top floor, and not much else. Even then, it feels like an area that should be bustling with people, at least in the club. Maybe it was at some point. Who knows? If there's any Luxor fanatics watching this, let me know. I was back at the very start, and the only other person here was a very strange My Little Pony creature, which I cannot show you. I saw there was an event going on, and the image had what looked to be Liquid Huge Harry. I was headed to the party to throw down with Liquid for the right to be the one true Huge, but ended up in a vast wasteland of ash. I left for a few minutes to explore elsewhere, but eventually came back and ended up in the right place this time. Once I actually got there, the chat just exploded with shit like, "Yo, Harry made it! Harry! Party time, Huge!" One of the attendees was even an admin of the game, who made me a VIP. I'm kind of a big deal around here. Their positivity and welcoming nature made me forget that I came here to kill a guy, and I danced for a minute to ABBA. This one was a little virtual bar, someone's favorite spot, I guess, and you could pay real-world money for an in-game virtual beer. I had a talk with the bartender about it, and he had this to say. I wanted to check out another one of the game's city maps to see if any could possibly compare to Blindside Estates, so we're headed to the city of Serenity. It was a massive landmass, and I thought it was just going to be nothing, because a lot of it was actually just nothing. I did find one part that was a big field where a bunch of AI players moved around potted veggies and seeds. It was very, very strange. I don't know what the hell it's for. Actually, no idea. After a bit more searching, I finally came across the city itself. There was a big login screen showing that it was mildly active, with people hopping on every few days. Beside that was a list of the city's founders. There were 5 of them, but based on the images, it looks like 2 have since passed away. One was recent as well, only being a few days beforehand. looking around this place now was just genuinely kind of sad. It wasn't as packed as the other city, but there was still a fair amount of stuff, though it was kind of a gut punch when I saw a store here, which was owned by the woman who recently passed, which was listed as coming soon. I don't think that's going to be happening. I saw another area named Memorial Gardens, which had tributes to the two founders from this, as well as a few other players. Like DELTAWORLDS, this is terribly sad, but a very kind gesture. I was going to maybe check out a bit more of the city, but I figured I should just leave it be. At one point, I realized that I had actually no idea where the events in this were held, so finding them was next up on my agenda.
Welcome in, Harry. Nice to see you.
As soon as I got here, I was instantly interrogated by the club's manager about if I go by Huge or Harry. I told her both at the same time, and she said, "Okay, nice to know," grins. I was then asked how I found them, where I came from, and if I was a Second Life refugee. Once the interrogation was over, I looked around. The only real standout thing here was the taxidermied Kurt Cobain in the corner. The performer was pretty good as well. I stuck around for a couple songs before leaving for a bit. My true goal here was to see the Utah Cowboy, Evan Williams. Evan's ensemble was a little lighter this time around. I was definitely missing his skeleton, werewolf, Daffy Duck, and giant jack-o'-lantern bandmates. And, I kinda don't actually have much more to say. He wasn't a bad performer or anything, but it was just a pretty normal set. I honestly find it fascinating that these grid games legit have a mini music industry though. Some of these people go on tour across different games. It's a very neat thing, and 99.999% of people will never ever see or even hear about any of this. That's a wrap on Wolf Territory's grid though. I think it's worth looking at games like this with small but respectable player bases in order to show off these cool little communities that normally no one outside of their small circles would ever hear about. This one in particular was very welcoming and sweet. From what I saw, it's just a bunch of people who want to hang out, chill, have a good time, and make new friends. Every populated area I joined instantly had people greet me, add me as a friend, and just made sure I felt welcomed. I was even welcomed with open arms at the dance party that I didn't show, where half the people had their big flappy birds out on full display. Counter-Strike NEXON, previously known as Counter-Strike NEXON Studios, previously known as Counter-Strike NEXON Zombies, is a very strange game. It's not developed by Valve, but it is officially licensed, and is basically a release of Counter-Strike Online for the West. CS Online was, or is, I don't have any numbers, a pretty big thing in Asia, and when it was released here as CS NEXON Zombies, they hit some respectable numbers, peaking at nearly 10,000 players. Almost 11 years later, it's down to an average of about 350. Throughout this segment, I just want you to remember in the back of your mind that this is a Counter-Strike game. After logging in as Gary Gaming, the very first thing this game hit me with was about 10 pop-ups about various things I unlocked, battle passes I could buy, daily login rewards, missions, and a how to play guide that was like 5 minutes long. It's a great way to start your game, and definitely won't instantly drive off new players. I also got 11 achievements just for launching the game. I didn't get a single other achievement the entire time I played. The game also has a feed, which tells you what other players have unboxed. I guess if you see someone unbox something kinda cool, you might want to take a shot at it too. It's kinda scummy. Since this game was originally NEXON Zombies, I figured I would start things off with a zombie map. This one was a zombie defense mode, where we've got to protect this big thingamabob in the middle, from the undead army. I equipped a few of the guns I got as daily login rewards, which were all insane golden anime bullshit. One click with the sword I got for logging into the game could literally wipe out an entire wave in half a second. There was some lore playing on screen that I paid no attention to, and a bit into this, a boss showed up that I did literally no damage to. I do not understand the balancing of this game. Fast forward like 10 minutes, and we ended up beating the map. Gary Gaming always wins. Loot boxes? Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Unboxing, here we go! Here we go, let's go! I got a
Gray! What's this? I got a catfish. I was honestly just gonna quit the game and cut this part, but I looked into what the studio mode was, and it was a bit more interesting than the zombie stuff. I guess the best way to describe it is a Minecraft map editor. You can use these big blocks to make maps, and within those, you can do some basic stuff like finding keys to open doors, or other items like that. The first studio map I tried was a granny map, which wasn't very good. Again, I was on the brink of quitting this one until I saw Cry of Fear. This shit was a full-on remake of Cry of Fear, or as close as they could get in Nexon Studio.
I've always felt alone my whole life, for as long as I can remember. I don't know if I like it or if I'm just used to it, but I do know this. Being lonely does things to you, and feeling shit and bitter and angry all the time eats away at you.
It had the intro with the car crash. It had the part in the beginning where you take photos in the void. It had the phone, scripted events, puzzles, and even a boss fight in the end. It was crazy.
Blood? Is that blood? Or a Minecraft red brick?
This map went all the way up until the end of the apartment level as well, and it took me a good 30 minutes to get through it all. Some parts of it are a little weird or blocky, but it was basically made with Minecraft blocks. I really didn't expect it to be as decent as it was. If, for whatever reason, you can't play Cry of Fear, which is free and runs on the same engine, this is a pretty good alternative. I hopped on CS Nexon again the next day, and got a bunch of pop-ups that like half the items I owned had expired, as well as more daily login rewards, battle passes, and other random shit. Awesome game design. Imagine you unbox a very nice butterfly knife gamma Doppler in CS2, and it just deletes itself after 2 days. The most devastating loss was that of my iconic fish back bling that I'm always talking about. You know the one. Yeah, shit was deleted from my inventory. Anyways, I didn't give a shit about the items, and I hopped on a gun game server. I learned how to pick the anime avatars in this one, and chose the medic lady. Things started off pretty normal. Honestly, you could tell me that this was just condition 0, and I'd believe you. That was, until I started getting into the higher tiers, where the guns just became nonsense, insane contraptions that shoot like Beyblades and other weird shit like that. Don't know what this is. It's like a jackhammer? It's likely very obvious, but I have no idea what I'm doing in this game. I was just randomly joining people and found one with someone in the zombie defense mode, all by themselves. They were just standing there, basically idle, holding down mouse 1, and it was killing anything that got within 100 feet. This is prime CS Nexon gameplay right here. This is what it's all about. Gaming. There is nothing I can say to convey just how chaotic the most populated server was. The only way you'll even begin to properly understand is if I just show some clips. If you've got your volume cranked up, you might want to turn it down a bit.
This is so loud.
We did it. Oh, let's go. I got third person. I'm dead. What is even happening? Am I a zombie? The zombies will return. Oh my god. What are you supposed to even do?
The zombies will return. The zombies will return.
Dude, this is probably a lot of fun if you have any idea what's fucking happening. Oh my god, this hurts my ears. What are you... Okay. 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 That was... Oh my god. Mirage. A classic, cozy, wonderful Counter-Strike map. One of the greats. I think for once I was in a normal, basic, good old game of Counter-Strike. I had no idea how to buy though. The menu was completely empty. But I pressed F1 and had an AWP, Deagle, and the anime swords from the zombie defense map that insta-killed entire hordes in a single click. I solo carried our team, which included a real guy, to an overwhelming victory. I did it. Let's go. The featured tab in the studio didn't show a whole lot, but it did have some tags you could search by. There was common stuff like puzzle, shooter, and arcade, but you also had some more questionable tags, such as dating, cute, acquiring wealth, gamble, maple story, and a bunch of others like that. Sadly, aside from cute, these were basically worthless. I wanted a Casino 1995 type map from Gamble, or some kind of business mode for acquiring wealth, neither of which had any results. What the hell? Nothing for dating, either. I wanted to have a dinner date with a smokin' hottie on a Counter-Strike NEXON zombie map, and this game has robbed us of the opportunity. Anyways, I searched for FNAF maps because I was 100% certain there'd be at least a handful, and I was correct. This one here was a recreation of the renowned eatery, but entirely in French. Sec nuit, chef Freddy. This one is decent, but like, I'm sorry. The Cry of Fear map was so good that everything else looks worse by comparison. Freddy Fazbear is dead. Look it up. He's never coming back.
What the hell are these? Epic fail.
This one was called Fun? By Hard Rock Cafe. It had an image of Jigsaw as the thumbnail, and no other info. It seemed to be a pretty normal adventure map, where you've got to find items to unlock doors, and use your noggin to solve perplexing puzzles. It was dark, gloomy, rainy, and very holly, with a dash of jolly. I was making some good progress, collecting various key items, but I just couldn't, for the life of me, find the spaghetti and meatballs I needed to unlock the main doorway. I was going over every square inch of the map until I finally found it, but I seemed to have fallen for the mapper's trap as I was stuck in the spaghetti hole and couldn't get back out. This map has been played 12,000 times, by the way. That is more than almost any map on SINESPACE. Every time I think I'm just about done with this stupid-ass game, it reels me right back in. This time, I saw a studio map called Ants. Funny. You know I had to try that out. It was a map about, quote, being an ant, which just meant that it was a rats map, but even bigger. It also didn't really function solo. None of the jump pads or teleporters worked. So I thought, alright, ants. Funny, didn't work. I'm done with this game. But right when I was gonna leave, again, I saw that some random guy had joined into the Ants Funny server. So I was back in for one more round to kick this guy's ass. Well bang.
Excellent. He's gonna see this hit and he's gonna go, holy hell.
He's gonna go, ready? He's gonna go, what the fuck was that? He's gonna go,
Honor to die by my hand. A clean kill.
and one shot! Oh! After thoroughly giving this guy a whooping, I hit him with a GG, a GTG. He formally responded with an XD, and I departed. I do not want to play this game anymore.
What the hell is even happening?
Released all the way back in 2005, The Endless Forest is a Tale of Tales game, which is a studio pretty well known for making artsy games. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just that they aren't exactly known for making, like, boomer shooters or anything like that. I actually mentioned The Endless Forest in part 3 of my Disturbing Games Iceberg series. Let's have a listen to what I said there as a refresher. The Endless Forest is a game where you play as some fucking weird-looking deer in a forest doing some deer stuff. That's it? That's all I said? First things first, I had to make an account. You can name your deer, but it's never actually displayed anywhere. What you do get is a custom pictogram in an unknown, ancient, mystical, whimsical language. I got one that looked quite phallic in nature. Despite not actually being showcased, I decided to play along and gave myself a true name and official backstory. My secret name is the Evil Deer. I am responsible for the sickness, violence, and all that is wrong in the forest. Now, I wasn't sure if I'd actually be able to run the game. The required specs sounded expensive. 512 megabytes of RAM, at least 200 megabytes of space, and a GeForce 4 series graphics card. I don't know if I can do it. I spawned in as a fawn, and according to the website, new players are stuck as one for an entire real-time month. I got to grips with the controls, and to my surprise, I found a group of 3 sitting around almost instantly. For some reason though, like I said, this game was very taxing, and I was down to like 12 FPS. I changed some settings around, and then had to troubleshoot for about 30 minutes, because changing my resolution, for some reason, completely broke the network connection, and I could not reconnect to the game's server, no matter what I did. I tried about 10 different fixes until I found one that worked. Off to a great start. Once I was back, there was no time to waste. I had no idea if this game would shit the bed again. I had to enact my evil plans before being disconnected. I stumbled across a sleeping deer and tried to wake him up by screaming in his ear. Wake up. This was shortly followed by the calls of other deer that heard my youthful cries. I guess I wasn't the only person here, as I was quickly ambushed by quite a colorful creature. This was my new mentor and best friend. This was followed shortly after by a smaller, less colorful creature. I now had a second new best friend. After that came a big guy with a badass skeleton body, very reminiscent of Gary the Wolf, new third best friend. We ended up frolicking for a bit, and I mean that completely seriously and unironically. That is the best way to describe the next few minutes. After being fully accepted into their deer gang, they began conducting some evil satanic magic on me, turning me spotted and colorful.
What the hell?
It wasn't permanent, so I quickly faded back into a sweet baby boy. My best friends were not happy with this. I'm being, like, enchanted by the mystical wizards. I've been given a freaky, funny face. What are they doing to me?
What are they doing to me?
I'm blue. Bada bee bada ba. At some point I'm gonna have to, like, split off from my bros. One thing I found cool is that these little points of interest around the map aren't just random landmarks, but each one actually has their own page on the website going over their lore, design, and interesting facts. Despite the weirdness, this game does have some neat stuff going on. You've just got to look for it. See all this? They don't even know this was my doing. They don't even know I killed all these people. They don't have a clue I'm the evil deer.
No! No! This guy just turned into dust.
Holy shit. This frog gameplay? This is the game of the century. Look at this. I've never seen a game better than this. Oh shit, a cool ass bridge. See you later, dickheads. Oh shit, I crossed the evil, scary bridge. And I lost all my friends. The evil deer, I've had a redemption arc. I gained all kinds of perspective and friendship. Alright, I'm sorry, friends.
Here I go again on my own. I ain't wasting no more time. Here I go again.
Maybe I'll find new friends. After the evil deer went off on his own to find new best friends, he pretty quickly realized that this was called the Endless Forest because it just loops within like a minute. Because of this, there was only one thing he could think to do.
Here I go again on my own. Wake up!
Where'd my friends go? My friends! I want to see my friends!
Help! My friends! Where'd you go? I think I hear him. I think he was this way.
This is like freaky. This is a freaky ass game. Yo! Huh? evil music. That's my theme song.
And I've made up my mind. I ain't wasting no time.
I think that's about it there, bud. I think I'm about done. I think this big button here is what I am. I think I'm done. And I think I quit. Oh, fuck, but they want me to keep playing.
My friends, let's go. Yeah. Yeah.
Woo! We're going to have a quick look at some interesting things I found before wrapping this one up. To start, this one has a very dedicated fan community site that seems to be fairly active even today. It's got over 2,000 pages of posts that go back over 15 years. There's a post on the forum from 2009 with over 3,300 goddamn replies, which is for the biography of someone's dear OC. It's got fan art, stories, screenshots, and discussions that have gone on to this day. The original poster is also still active in the thread, replying to someone named P only a few hours ago as of writing. The post was P showcasing a screenshot of an interaction between themselves and OP nearly 15 years ago. I noticed that P looked familiar, and holy shit, it was my skeleton best friend that I found in-game. Even without any form of in-game communication, this game has created friendships and has had people playing and active for years. This is also just one of many posts like it. There's a good chance that any elaborate-looking deer I walked past or shouted at during this has a 30-page biography on the forum. Things aren't all sunshine and rainbows, though. No siree. Back in 2007, there was war. A raid led by the Something Awful community. There's an old blog post detailing their little escapade, which is pretty, well, it's just kind of cringe to read through. No other way of putting it. The Something Awful users could not fathom how people found this so-called game fun or relaxing in any way, and decided to just annoy the shit out of people that played it. The game was also deemed a furry game, so you can probably imagine how 2007 internet users reacted to that information. I guess that the devs themselves were actually working to reduce the amount of trolling by limiting the abilities of new players. And things got so bad at one point that the devs did a credit roll to try and, I guess, trick the trolls into thinking that it was over. I don't know. Overall, this is a pretty neat little micro community. There's definitely a rabbit hole or two or three to go down if you've got some spare time to go through all 2,000 pages of forum posts. I doubt the Something Awful raid was the only outside force to ever interact with the game. I also saw that this is getting a remake in the Unreal Engine, so who knows? Maybe it'll have a big boom in popularity once that drops. We'll have to see. But with that one, we're going to wrap up today's expedition. I haven't said this here in a while, but I'm always open to suggestions for games to play in these. A few of the ones we looked at today were viewer suggested, and I had a pretty good time with all of them. Especially Smokin' Guns. That one was sick. I might have gone a bit overboard with the virtual worlds, but to be fair, those are some of my favorites to look at. I love doing those ones. As a little watching the outro secret, one more bonus. A little game called REverse was pretty recently shut down. It was a very negatively received Resident Evil PvP shooter, which Capcom pulled the plug on in just under 3 years. And just like MULTIVERSUS, I played this in its final moments, and may have gotten the last REverse kill ever. Check it out. Oh. That's it. It just ends. Also, be sure to check out the Patreon. There's some very cool exclusive videos on there, with more added every month. Anyways, I'll be back in the future to cover more dead, forgotten, and abandoned games. So stick around, and have a great day.